Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to talk about something that is so relatable for so many of us. We're breaking down how to build a healthier, more mindful relationship with food and move away from some of those patterns of overeating.
So let's just kick things off with a question. Have you ever been here? You're relaxing, watching a show, maybe you're a little distracted, and then you look down and poof. The entire bag of snacks is just gone. It's that moment of disconnect that we're really going to dig into.
All right, so here's our game plan for this explainer. First up, we're going to define what overeating actually is. Then we'll unpack the triggers behind it. After that, we'll dive into some powerful new mindsets and habits, look at how the right foods can help, and finally, we'll talk about this as a positive journey forward.
Okay, let's jump right into part one and get a really clear definition of what we're actually talking about when we say overeating. Let's solve that empty bag problem. So at its core, it's really about this disconnect. The sources define overeating as eating beyond your body's actual physical needs, and this is the key part. It's often driven by our feelings instead of real, genuine hunger signals from our stomach. And, your body is usually pretty loud and clear when this happens. It sends out all these signals, right? You might feel bloated or sluggish, maybe even get some heartburn, or just that really uncomfortable, I definitely ate too much feeling. These are those immediate physical effects. Now, this is a really, really crucial distinction to make. On one side, you have common overeating, like having an extra helping at a holiday dinner. It's occasional, it happens. But binge eating disorder, or BED, is a whole different story. That's a recognized medical condition, and it involves frequent episodes, a real loss of control, and a whole lot of distress afterward. If that second column is ringing any bells, the sources strongly suggest reaching out for professional support. But that brings up the big question, right? Why do these moments happen? If we really want to make a change, we have to get curious and unpack the why behind it all. Well, it turns out there are a whole bunch of triggers. It's almost never just one thing. Our emotions are a huge piece of the puzzle. Stress and boredom are massive drivers. But there are also physical factors, like skipping a meal and getting way too hungry, or even just not getting enough sleep, which can totally mess with the hormones that control our appetite. And this quote from therapist Nicole Artz, wow, it just gets right to the emotional heart of it all. She frames overeating not as a failure of willpower, but as a coping mechanism. Viewing it as a way to manage stress is a really powerful and much kinder way to think about it. Okay, so now that we have a better handle on the why, let's switch over to the how. We're going to explore some real actionable strategies, and we'll start with our mindset and our daily habits. One of the simplest changes you can make is also one of the most effective. Just eliminate distractions when you eat. When you turn off the TV, put your phone away, and just eat, you give your brain a chance to actually register the food and notice when you're getting full. It's all about being present. Oh, this one is a biggie. The sources are so consistent on this. Super strict diets often backfire. The second you tell yourself a food is forbidden, it can create this sense of scarcity in your brain, which just makes you crave it more and can lead to overeating when you finally give in. So if stress is a trigger, what can you do instead of eating? You need a plan. A toolkit, really. Have a list of other things you can do to decompress. Take a walk, put on a great song, call a friend. These are your tools to break that automatic link between feeling stressed and reaching for food. And here is a perfect example of what that looks like in practice. You're not just stopping an old habit. You're consciously choosing a new, healthier one to take its place. You identify that routine, eating ice cream on the couch, and you actively replace it with something else, like a cup of tea and a book. All right, now let's talk about the food itself. What we choose to eat can have a massive impact on our hunger levels and can help prevent that urge to overeat in the first place. Satiety, that feeling of being full and satisfied, is basically your superpower. And across the board, the sources highlight two absolute superstar nutrients, protein and fiber. And why? Well, because they work together to slow down digestion and keep your blood sugar stable. That combination is what keeps you feeling satisfied long after a meal, which really helps quiet those powerful cravings. This table shows just how simple it can be to build a satisfying meal. The goal is to get a source of protein and fiber on your plate every time you eat. And it's also great to see how versatile some of these foods are. Notice that beans and nuts show up in multiple categories. This next one might feel obvious, but it is so important. skipping meals really sets you up for failure. When you let yourself get intensely hungry or, hangry, your body goes into overdrive, and it becomes so much harder to make mindful choices when you finally do eat. So, being prepared is your best defense. A little bit of planning goes such a long way. Whether it's prepping some snacks for the week or just making sure you never go food shopping on an empty stomach, these simple strategies really do set you up for success. Okay, for our last section, let's zoom out and talk about the big picture. Because changing your relationship with food isn't about some quick fix. It really is a long-term journey. The most important mindset you can possibly adopt here is to let go of perfection. There are going to be good days and not so good days, and that is completely okay. The real goal is consistency, treating setbacks as learning opportunities, being kind to yourself, and never punishing your body for a misstep. We've covered a lot of ground today, but it all comes down to this. Change doesn't have to be some massive overhaul. It can start with just one small intentional step. Maybe it's putting your phone away during lunch or adding some beans to your salad. So, what's one small thing you can do today?